aside from being an extremely talented composer, musician, founder of an interfaith ensemble that has traveled the world, played all over the world, and also he's the founder of Inspired Sound Initiative, which helps children and communities who have never been exposed to music to be able to come to free concerts in the underserved areas. It's a great organization, and I'm on the board, and I see what's going on all the time, and I see what marvels are happening as a result of bringing music to children when they're young. So a little bit about Yuval and music therapy. Not every musician is involved in music therapy, even though all music is therapeutic, but this is something specific. Since 1990, when he received a commission from researcher Robert Monroe of the Monroe Institute for Hemi-Sync Music Composition using binaural beats, and he'll be talking about binaural beats if you don't know what that is. He has collaborated with neuroscientist Mark Waldman and Dr. Andrew Newberg, a psychotherapist, Dr. Sanjay Manchada, and pioneer healers, Dr. Richard Gold and Gail Lynn. He's also worked with Sufis and Kabbalists and Ayurvedic healers, and he is the founding director of the record label Meta Mindfulness Music, which produces quality, intentional healing music for use in clinics and treatment centers worldwide. Yuval has been invited to perform music for His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the Sufi Sheikh Sidi Mohammed, and he has collaborated with Sufi leaders, Pir Zia. How many of you heard of Pir Zia? He's the grandson of the great Sufi master and musician Hazrat Inayat Khan. And he has collaborated also with Shabbat Khan and numerous master musicians, including Omar Farouk, Tekbilek, Estrella Morente, and Diva Primal, and with the Zen Buddhist priest and master artist Hirokazu Kosaka. So you understand immediately that this is an international undertaking. It's definitely international, and if you have listened to his music, you will have heard some of the top performing musicians from around the world play healing music, specifically music from their culture, which has been added to that are the binaural beats and now 40 hertz frequency. I'm not going to tell, there's so many more things about Yuval. Go on this website and read it all. I don't want to take away from his time here what he wants to share with you. So he and his family, his wife and his children are dear friends of mine. I guess I'm the godmother, the honorary godmother. And it's such a pleasure for me to have Yuval speak to you. And afterwards, as I mentioned, his CDs are available, but also he gives regular lectures and seminars and webinars and an upcoming retreat that he'll tell you about, so you should look into that as well. So now, with great pleasure and delight, I introduce you to Yuval Ron.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Tadi, and thank you for everybody that helped put this together. I would like to start speaking about the power of sound and how sound can be medicine with actually experiencing the power of sound with about 10 minutes, maybe 7 minutes of sound meditation. And what I'd like you to do, I invite you to just focus on the sound that you're going to hear coming from this instrument, which is called oud, which is the Middle Eastern lute. And I will play an improvised piece. I have no idea which notes I will play because it's an incredible free improvisation challenge for myself. But my intention is to use two different musical modes that can affect the mind and the body. And I will use I will improvise with the first mode in the first half, and then in the middle, very smoothly, without anybody notice, I will segue into the second musical mode. So there will be two parts to it, without a break. And what I'd like you to do is just notice your feelings, your sensation, temperature, for example. Feel what is the temperature in your body in the first half, what it is in the second half. What comes to your mind in the first half, what comes to your mind in the second half? How do you feel? What comes to your head? Just make an observation of your thoughts, emotions, feelings, and bodily sensation in the first half and in the second half. You may close your eyes and just enjoy the music. So in an ideal world, I would just say this is the end of the lecture. I think I said enough. There's nothing that I can add with words or with numbers or with PowerPoints. This is it. This said it all. And I believe you're feeling it. What is the difference between what you felt in the first half to the second half? What is the difference for you? Who would like to express it and to share? Thank you.
The first half, I was very present, very aware of sensations. Louder?
Yeah, I can hear. She was very present in the first part.
Yeah, very aware of all my sensations. In the second half, I was totally dreaming.
Second half was a dream, present and then dream. Thank you. Who else? Yes.
It brought me back to childhood.
The first part
It
was?
brought me back to my childhood.
The first half, the second half.
Brought back to a sad part of my childhood.
Sad part of your childhood, the first half.
I got saved through music. And the second part brought me back to when I lived in Spain and a lot of joy.
Joy. So from sadness to joy. So you both experienced a journey, a transition. It's very interesting. Nitzan?
I felt adrift. Adrift. Schifa.
Yeah.
Like I was pulled out of
In the
me.
first half.
Yeah. And then there was a coming back to center, find the coherency in my system, and recentering to this moment.
Right.
My center changes at every moment.
Yes.
And it was like a gathering
Yes.
and a coherent movement.
Right. So from a situation where you were not grounded to a situation where you were grounded. This is beautiful. This is. I think this is fitting back. I think we can do without the mic. I can repeat what they said.
The first part, I was
It's
here.
fitting back.
Yeah.
I
The
can
first part,
repeat what she says.
I was in the room. The second part, I was not here.
Okay, so it was a journey from being present to being in a dream to being
I was-
beyond words. Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, Ruth.
The first part, I felt like it was in the middle of the night, like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning.
The first part was the nighttime.
And it felt
Darkness.
interior, and it was almost like watching the precipitation of a raindrop being very, very slow and watching it descend to its finality.
Yes.
That's what it felt like to me.
Inner experience. And then the second half?
I felt like it was 11 o'clock in the morning, and I was having this gorgeous conversation with a friend.
A gorgeous conversation in the middle of a gorgeous morning. So what you can turn it off because it's fitting back. Okay, so what I'm getting here that we all felt a similar journey, but we all have different words to describe it. But in general, I would say what I intended to do is to take you through a journey from darkness to light. Mm-hmm. And each one of us in the room experience it in a different way and would experience it with different words, but it's the same experience. The difference is how your brain is interpreting it, but on a sound level, it was one journey. The interpretations may be different, but there's a common theme. When I do that with groups, a lot of time people describe the first half as being in a cave, being underwater, being in a very confined, narrow place. The second half, people are outside in the fields. They go from night to morning. It's a journey from dark to light. And I can control this journey. I can reverse it. I can do a journey from light to darkness if I wanted to. And what this really experientially teaching us, that sound, intentional sound, can control our brain. I just think about it. This is extraordinary. I did something much more intimate than giving you a hug. I went into your brain and I changed the way your brain is functioning. And I did it with sound. And I did it exactly, intentionally, at a particular moment. I can choose the moment that I will change the way you think, the way you feel. And the way you think and feel changes your body chemistry. We're gonna see that soon we learned that from neuroscientists. This is not just entertainment, this is not just music, this is not just an enjoyable spiritual experience. This is medicine. And I would argue that this is the future medicine. Where you can get healed without anybody touching you. Sound will touch you. And it has no sound effect. It has no side effects. It's not going into your body with needles. It doesn't go into your body with anything. It's just sound. And this is extraordinary. And we had it for thousands of years. Shamans have used it in traditional societies. Shamans would heal with sound. We have the tarantella tradition from Italy, using music and dance to heal people that were bitten by the tarantula, by poisonous spider. And from that comes now they teach Italian folk music from the south of Italy as tarantella. Tarantella is like a jig. It's a upbeat music, and people just studying it as, oh, that's a folklore music from South Italy, tarantella. But that comes from healing a bite from a poisonous tarantula. That's why this style of music was created, and it worked because the people who were bitten by the poisonous spider had to dance all night. The musicians of the village would sit around them and have shifts. They wouldn't stop playing the music, which is upbeat music. And the person who was beaten had to dance all night in order to sweat the poison out of their body. And the musicians were committed, because if they didn't play all night, and if they didn't put the energy, if they wouldn't drive the person to dance through this experience, the person would die. It was a life or death situation. And from that comes a traditional Italian folklore sound. Yeah, comment, Ruth.
It's more than just a tarantula bite, it's also the poison of love lost or love rejection. And
Yes.
like this pain in the heart.
The pain of the heart.
Go away.
Right, so they use it for grief, to heal all kinds of mental illness. It's a whole long story. And I've written about this in my book, which we have here. It's called Divine Attunement, Music and Wisdom. There's references in the book to many of those interesting, fascinating subjects. And we have the book here. But I wanted to focus on one of the most exciting discoveries in sound medicine that I am very honored and lucky and fortunate to be involved with, and it's called 40 Hertz sound therapy. And that's why I'm here today. I wanted to tell you about 40 Hertz. Yeah. And just as a way of introduction, let me just walk you through a few slides. This presentation was put together by Dr. Richard Gold, who is my partner in creating a lot of the medicinal music products. Dr. Gold is one of the leaders of Chinese medicine and medical Thai massage in this country. And he put together this presentation, which I borrowed from him. So this is something that just explains to us what's going on. So when you hear music, there are bioelectric effects in our brain. So sound actually creates electrical current in our brain. It's not an illusion, it's real. The other thing that happens, there are actually physiological changes in the brain. The brain releases endorphins, serotonin, dopamine, and those chemicals that are being released in our brain because of particular sounds affect the body, the physical body. So it's not just neurological changes, it's also physical changes in the rest of our body. And this is based on neuroscience. This is the impact of sound on us. And the most amazing thing that comes out of research of my colleagues Mark Robert Waldman and Dr. Andrew Newberg, who I've been working with for the last 15 years, they wrote the book, How God Changes Your Brain. Now, it's not really about God, it's about how people who do meditation, mindfulness, and spiritual practices, how their brain is changed because of these practices. The publisher insisted that the book will be called How God Changes Your Brain. And the scientist says, but it's not about God. And the publisher said, look, if you want a bestseller, on the top of the New York list, you have to have the word brain and the word God in one title. And that's the title of the book, How God Changes Your Brain. And guess what? This book was on the top of the New York Times bestsellers list. And what they have there, they have 400 studies of people that do spiritual practices. And you would think that, okay, when you meditate, when you pray, when you do mindfulness practice, there are changes in your brain while you practice. But what they showed, that the changes in the brain last almost to the end of your life. Wow. So the structure of the brain actually changes. So meditators, spiritual people, people who do mindfulness, and musicians have actually a different brain than people who don't. And it's a healthier brain. If you want to know more, look up this book, How God Changes Your Brain. There are footnotes to 400 different studies that are pointing to fascinating information. So, we can distress with sound, and there's something called brainwave entrainment that is based on the fact that when we do different things, our brain vibrates in different speeds. So when we sleep, our brain vibrates much slower than when we think. And so there's one brain wave called gamma state, which is between 30 to 100 hertz. And that is associated with intuition, memory, connectivity between parts of the brain. And this is something that leads us to 40 hertz. So look at what it says there, gamma state. When we use our brain for intuitive tasks, for example, they had a group of people go to a city they've never been in, and they told them to navigate from one place to another, let's say to find a train station without talking to anybody. And they've never been there, and they have no map. And they have to walk and find the place, the train station. And they check their brain before and after. Right after, when they find the train, just by their intuition and just by trying to feel it, where is it? Their brain has a lot more of frequencies that are between 30 to 100 hertz, right when they arrived at that place. So this is all that we know about this. It's very, very much a new field. This is the forefront of neuroscience because gamma is the latest state that have been discovered. It's relatively new. We didn't know there's gamma before. People thought there's just beta, alpha, theta, and delta. And I suspect that in the future, you see the other states, beta states, this is where we are right now. When we think and talk, we're in beta, between 13 to 30 hertz. That means 13 to 30 vibrations a second. Look at gamma, it's 30 to 100 hertz. It's 70 different vibrations. And scientists, I believe, in the next 20 years, will find more ranges within that 30 to 100. They're going to learn a lot more about what's going on in our brain when we are in gamma. We don't know a lot about gamma, but here's the key. When they check the brains of all the people over 50, over 60 years old, who have early cognitive decline, who are early dementia patients, they found that across the board, these people, their brain did not vibrate at gamma. For some reason. When they were thinking, they were vibrating between 13 to 30 vibrations a second in beta. When they were sleeping, they were vibrating slower. When they were deeply in thought and mindful or early sleep. They were in, the next slide will show you, they were in theta state. But these people that start to lose the memory, the brain for some reason would not vibrate in that speed, in the fastest speed. So a thought came, what if we give these people that vibration? As a remedy, it's like a supplement, right? If you lack in vitamin D, give somebody vitamin D. Let's give those people the gamma vibration in order to get the brain to vibrate, and maybe we could help them with their memory loss. The problem was that there's 70 different vibrations, between 30 and 100, 70 different vibrations. And here's the most incredible thing, that there's a team, again, the pharmaceuticals would never do this. Pharmaceuticals are not interested in this because this is just music, it's just sound. Nobody would make a lot of money on this. So nobody put money into research into that. Only universities that get grants and they get students for free to work on those projects. So a team at MIT took on this challenge. And they worked with mice. And they tampered with the brain of the mice so they have early loss of cognitive and memory functions. And they found that there's one frequency that improved the memory of the mice. It was 40 hertz. And not 41, and not 39, and not 37, and not 48. Just 40 hertz improved. And that was in 2019. They published the research in 2019. And the way they do that, since then they've done it with humans. Last year, the first study in humans have shown promising results as well. And the way they do that, they give a sound of 40 hertz, which is a low bass note, which sounds like a little bit lower than that. It's really low, but you can hear it, 40 hertz. It's the bottom of your stereo system. And they flash this, they give you this helmet or a machine that sends light into your eyes, and the light turns on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off, 40 times a second, which gives you the vibration through the optical nerve. It goes to your brain, and your brain sees 40 times on, off a second, and it gives the vibration through light. Sound and light, that's what they do. So 2 years ago, I get a call from Dr. Gold and Dr. Sanjay Manchata. Dr. Sanjay Manchata is a therapist who works with people that have brain trauma and memory loss, and he's been using these helmets and these machines that make you listen to that tone for 40 minutes a day for a few months, and the light. And those two doctors told me over the phone, look, there's this exciting new discovery of 40 hertz therapy, but we are thinking about another way to treat people, another way to provide this 40 hertz to people instead of making them sit there with this horrible and the light flashing in their eyes. How about if you compose beautiful music that will be relaxing and beautiful and will give the people the 40 hertz vibration? Is it possible to do? And since I worked with these doctors on different projects for music based on Ayurvedic medicine, music based on Qigong, music based on Chinese medicine, music based on the chakra system, music based on neuroscience, and I've worked with them for 12 years and I've had a lot of experience working on that, I said, sure, of course it can be done. Just give me some time to research it. And then I found out that 40 hertz doesn't exist in our culture. 40 hertz doesn't exist on the piano. 40 hertz doesn't exist in any of the music that we're listening to and ever listen to in the West, because our piano is tuned in a way that the closest note is E in the bass. The first E, E1, is actually 41.2
2, 3. And E flat is already 39. So we have 40 hertz is in between the white key and the black key. We don't have a key for that in the piano because the way we tune the orchestra and the way we tune the piano. Basically, I found out that I need to get all the musicians who will play my music in 40 hertz to detune their instruments about a quarter tone lower. And that reminded me that when I played and when I learned playing the oud, the instrument that I played for you, I learned it in the Sinai Desert in the 80s, in the early 80s. I played with the Bedouins. That's where I got my first oud. That's how I learned. And I noticed that they tuned their instruments about a quarter tone lower than my guitar, which I brought from Tel Aviv with me, which was tuned to normal, quote unquote, Western tuning. Now, Western tuning is only about 300, 400 years old. So this is just an assumption that in the old days, many of, not all, but many of world cultures were naturally tuned lower and looser. And if you look even European music, Renaissance, Baroque music, if you go to an orchestra that plays Baroque music, they tune the instruments about a quarter tone lower, a little bit lower than the contemporary orchestra. The instruments were more sensitive. They used gut strings, not industrial strings. So everything was more mellow, more loose, and could have expressed musically the vibrations of 40 hertz. And so we launched on a project of creating 40 hertz music. And this research, you see, this is research from March 14, 2019. Researchers found that exposure to 1 hour 40 hertz tones per day, these are the tones, not the music, tones, for 7 days in 1 week dramatically reduced the amount of beta amyloid in the auditory cortex, as well as the hippocampus. Now, let me explain this to you, because I'm not a scientist. This is language of scientists, and that's what the scientists are giving me. But let me explain this to you in a storyteller way, because I'm a storyteller. In your brain, there's a cleaning crew that on a regular basis comes in and cleans the pathway, the memory pathways, because naturally there's plaque that gathers on the memory pathways. And if you have plaque in the pathway, the information doesn't go through, or it has difficulty going through. This is one of the symptoms of early dementia. There's plaque on the memory pathways. Why? Because the cleaning crew that worked for 50 years, and in some people 60 years or 70 years, and there's 11 different risk factors, from high mercury to lack of sleep, and there's 9 others risk factors. People who have those risk factors, their cleaning crew very likely to just go on strike one day. And the cleaning crew is saying, we worked enough. We worked for 50 years, for 60 years, and you're not sleeping, and you're eating big fish like a swordfish. You love swordfish, or you eat that big tuna every day, and you've got a lot of mercury, and we're just tired of all this mercury, and we're just not going to work anymore. And you've got this plaque sitting on your memory pathways, and you start losing your memory. And they found that 40 hertz vibration is like a massage that doesn't clean the memory pathway. The 40 hertz massage wakes up the cleaning crew that thought that they retired. And they wake up because of the vibration of 40 hertz, and they start cleaning again the memory pathways. They found also that 40 hertz vibration increased blood flow in the brain. And it's also now, 2 weeks ago, MIT, the same team of MIT that discovered that 6 years ago, the same team 2 weeks ago sent me their latest research, which they found that 40 hertz increased the amount of what they call white matter, which is something that oils the memory pathways, and that involves also with people that have MS. People who have MS have lower levels of that white matter, which is like fat, like oiling the pathways, the connectors in the brain. That's why they found that 40 hertz increased connectivity in the brain. Now, 2 weeks ago, they just published the research that explains why 40 hertz increased connectivity in the brain, because it increases that fat, that what they call white matter, that people that have dementia, Alzheimer, and multiple sclerosis have a deficit in that. So this is one of the most exciting and promising new discovery in the field of sound medicine. And now they are expanding the research into chronic depression, chronic pain, Parkinson. There's one doctor that I know that treats Parkinson disease with 40 hertz tone, and he said that within one session, the tremor went down 90% in one session. So it's complete calibration of the brain. And some of the results were in 7 days, in a few months. So they're treating it now. They're doing research on major depression, Parkinson's, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I have no idea what it is, etc., etc. So this is very, very exciting. So I'll just end with the interesting thing that Dr. Richard Gold told me. He said that, look, if we tell people to sit there for 3 months with a buzzing noise, we're going to have low compliance rate. And I asked him, what is low compliance rate? I never heard that in music school, because I studied music. And he said, low compliance rate is that you give the medicine to people, you give the supplement to people, or you give them the sound medicine, but they just don't do it enough. Because people tend to not do things that are unpleasant. And so they said to me, it's very important that we provide people with beautiful music that delivers the medicine, that delivers the 40 hertz. And he said, furthermore, it's not enough to do one album of 40 hertz. We need to do a whole catalog of different musical styles, because if you do, so we started with the first album that I did for them was New Age music in 40 hertz. So there's 40 hertz vibrations in the music, the musicians are tuned to 40 hertz. There are 3 layers of 40 hertz, including binaural beats, which you have to listen to in headphones. So there's 3 layers of 40 hertz in each of those albums. That album came out. Doctors in George Washington Medical Center in Washington, D.C. are using it with all the patients. They recommend it to all the patients, even though there's no study with my music yet. The study is just with those tones. But the doctors that are using it recommend it to all their patients, because they said, why not? What's the harm? There's just a potential for gain while we are working on getting a grant to do the study. So we did the second album with world music, musicians from India and Iran. So we got 3 albums. And then Dr. Gold told me about a study that they got from Scandinavia, where the music therapist in the hospital with people recovering from brain trauma after a brain surgery, the patients were split to 3 groups. The music therapist chose the music that would help recovery with one group. The second group, they gave them no music. The third group, they told them, you choose the music that you want, but you need to listen to that music in the recovery room. They found out an amazing thing. The group that didn't have any music, they stayed in the hospital the longest, and they took the most amount of drugs for pain and and recovery. The group that the music therapist who went to school 5 years and knows everything to know about music and therapy, that group with the music therapist went home earlier and with less painkillers than the group that got no music. But the group that chose their own music was released from the hospital even earlier and with less drugs than the music therapist group. So they said, this is amazing. Why do we send the music therapists for 5 years to the university to study if the people got better results? Because you see, music is so subjective. It's very universal, but it's also very subjective. And we saw it in the introductory exercise. The principle of the sound medicine that I gave you in the beginning was the same music, the same medicine, the same principle. It worked universally on everybody in the room. But each one of you interprets it differently. And the interpretation changes the impact of the drug, of the medicine, of the sound medicine. So it's so important that the people will choose their sound medicine. You need to know what you need. You need to know what energy you need in the morning. Do you need fiery music? Do you need calming music? Do you need this? Do you need that? You need to prescribe it to yourself. And I work with my students on how to become your own healer, how to know what to prescribe to yourself. So Dr. Gold told me we need to create a whole catalog of 40 Hertz music. So we created a 4th album with a cappella singing, just human voice, singing in 40 Hertz. Beautiful choir. The Brigham Young University, which is one of the best choirs in America, recorded this. The world premiere, the first choral music in human history that was composed and performed and recorded in 40 Hertz. And then we did a solo classical piano, and now we're working on another album with piano, and we releasing on September 1st an album of hip hop it's a style called chill hop, lo-fi chill hop for study and concentration, because high school kids and college kids love to listen to that kind of hip hop when they study. So we created this hip hop for studying in 40 Hertz. So it will help them focus and concentration, because one of the things that 40 Hertz does, it impacts focus and concentration. So we have this whole catalog, and it's a very, very exciting moment of creating these sound medicines and to put it out in the world. So just in conclusion, we have here a USB with the first 3 albums, volume 1, volume 2, volume 3 of 40 Hertz album. It's available here if you'd like to get it. It's available online. We have a QR code where you can get it, and you can get the choral, the chill hop, you can get all the things that we don't have here, you can get it online. We have QR codes there. I'll take questions in a second. Another thing that is really exciting is that I was invited to give an in-person retreat on October 25th, 26th, 27th in a beautiful, beautiful place near Santa Clarita, near Ojai. On the top of a mountain, there's a beautiful ranch called Sky Oak Ranch. And I'm going to be teaching a whole weekend of sound and the brain practices, including singing this choral piece in 40 Hertz, including doing things with body and mind and with sound, playing 40 Hertz, singing 40 Hertz, doing all kinds of practices that increase brain health. And so you don't have to be a musician, you don't have to know to sing, it's for everybody. As long as you can breathe, you can do it. So if you want, there's information about that on the table over there. There's a QR code about that retreat. Questions? Yes?
Is it on Apple Music?
It's on Apple Music. It's coming, well, the chill hop is coming September 1st. It's called 40 Hertz Beats to Study To. It's coming on September 1st. Right now it's available only on the record label site. The choir is available, but get the QR code to the record label and then you see the albums, and then you can listen to it on Spotify and Apple Music and anywhere you want. I'll just say that the doctors and myself recommend that you download the high quality audio, because everything that you stream through the internet is low quality. It's like a low quality photo versus high quality photo. There's more pixels in the high quality, there's more vibrations in the high quality audio. So when they stream music on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Music and all those online, they take out some of the vibrations in order to create a small file that can be streamed quickly through the internet. So you're getting less vibrations. So we, especially for sound therapy, for sound medicine, we recommend getting the full sound, the full music, the whole vibrations, rather than the watered down medicine. The watered down medicine still works. You know, if you take orange juice, fresh orange juice, and you add some water to it and you drink, you're still getting the benefit of the orange juice, right? But you water it down, it's less strong, it's just less. But it's not bad. Yes?
I'm wondering, on a guitar, which the bass note is E,
Right.
and if you lower it a slight bit, how do you know when you've hit 40 hertz?
You need to have a digital tuner that works with hertz, and then you're gonna see 40 hertz. But the low E of the guitar is not 40 hertz, it's 80 hertz. So you need a double bass. You need a bass guitar.
Got it.
Because it's an octave below the lowest note of the guitar is an octave above.
Got it.
Okay, yes.
If this frequency is so low that it's not very pleasant, is there some way to sample it today to hear this music? Or is it easier to sample later to hear if it's something I'm going to really want to listen to? And is it super low like you described?
It's a low sound. Yeah, it's not a super rumble, but it's one of the low notes. You know, I cannot sing it. It's lower than my, the lowest note of my voice.
Can you play the choir?
It's going to be lower.
Video from the choir?
I don't have sound equipment here, but you can listen to it online. I don't have just the tone. Are you talking about just the tone, or are you talking about the music? The music is very pleasant and relaxing. That's the difference between, my challenge was to make the experience pleasant, beautiful, and harmonious, and peaceful. So all the music in 40 hertz is pleasant, beautiful, harmonious, and peaceful. When you go to MIT, or when you go to the few doctors around the country that are using it therapeutically, they want you to sit in front of the machine that blasts light into your eyes and blasts your body and your ears with, that's what they do. That's not what my music sounds like.
When I have some albums of Tibetan chants that are very low with those long horns.
Yes.
And it's very low. I just wonder if that's 40 hertz.
It may be, it may not be. It's probably lower. You see, our range of hearing starts at 20 hertz. So 20 hertz is the lowest sound that a human can hear. 40 hertz is twice as high, meaning it's an octave up from there. You have do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, between the lowest note that you can hear and 40 hertz. You have 8 notes. So that can give you an idea. Tibetan monks, a lot of time, they're all over the place. They also don't really consider the piano, and they don't really go by it. They can be at 13 hertz, they can be at 24 hertz, they can be at 36 hertz. Who knows? Each Tibetan group may sing in a different place. They don't tune themselves to the piano. But the music is beautiful and pleasant. Yes?
Can you explain the reason that there is no 40 hertz, and that many years ago, I call him Frankenstein, Rockefeller did erase this frequency, because normally 40 hertz is the frequency of the Earth.
40 hertz is not the frequency of the Earth. There are many frequencies around planet Earth. So this is a whole other lecture. But the reason why we don't have 40 hertz in Western music is because the standard for tuning the orchestra have started since the Middle Ages through Baroque time, through Renaissance time, through the 19th century, through the 20th century, every 100 or 200 years, orchestras in Europe found it fashionable and trendy to tune their instruments a little higher, a little tighter, making the singers have to tighten up their voices and strings to sing higher. And the conductors and audiences thought that this is really cool to hear Bach instead of this kind of mellow, warm tone that the orchestras used to play when they used to play Mozart and Bach and Haydn. Now, conductors start presenting the same music and it sounds a little different. It sounds more sharp and tight and exciting and bright, and it became the fashion. And every period, and also with the Industrial Revolution, that we start making strings with metal, with steel, instruments could afford to tighten the strings more, because in the old days, the gut strings would pop if you tighten it up more. So industrialism facilitated this new trend of going faster and faster and faster, and it's a symptom of what happens to our society. It's not just the music, it's the fast pace of life and the desire to be more and more edgy and more bright and more, and they think that that's more cool. It's desensitizing. It's a process of desensitizing. And you know, my kids, who are teenagers, they just want to listen to music that is faster and busier, and to watch movies that are busier and hectic, more than anything that I watched and listened to when I was a teenager. And the whole generation is getting desensitized. So they don't know what to do. Let's take the whole orchestra and tune it a little tighter. And wow, that sounds so cool, so bright, so shiny, so exciting. That's what happened. And 40 hertz is one of the notes that is not part of this new tuning aesthetics, but it used to be. Yes?
There is a connection with the home sound, because the home is the sound of birth. And first of all, I want to say thank you, because we are achieving. And music and sound is becoming far more now, for humanity.
Yeah. Thank you for your appreciation. You know, an Om can be chanted from any tone. If you want to know more about it, I'm going to be teaching a whole retreat in January about our Vedic medicine and Om and chanting. And you can get information on my website. Ruth.
I just want to say that the vibration of the earth is the Schumann resonance, and that is 7.83 hertz. So
Yeah. It's a human resonance?
No, it's the Schumann resonance. That's who gave
Oh, the Schumann resonance.
That's the resonance of the earth. So people have been confused.
The Schumann resonance is a resonance in between the stratosphere and the atmosphere.
Yes.
Yeah, and there's actually 7 different Schumann resonances. There's the most famous one is the basic one, but you can find more. And these are resonance that is between planet Earth and the higher atmosphere. It's between the surface of the planet and the edge of the aura, let's call it, that surrounds it. But inside the Earth, there are many other frequencies, like in the bottom of the Earth. If you go and you listen to, or if you have equipment that sense different frequencies in different places on Earth, you may get other things, and they're also reflecting from the space that is full of frequencies. But the Schumann frequency is one unique frequency that is on the surface of the Earth. And there's 7 high harmonics of them. There's the fundamental, then they discovered 7 different. Yes?
About 15 years ago, I was invited to a rave concert in the desert.
Yeah.
And one of the things I noticed was that the reason the music was so hypnotic, the trance music, because it resembled the heartbeat.
Dum, 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 dum. Yeah, it's very hypnotic.
So I'm wondering, and people loved it, and people felt connectivity with each other that they don't usually feel.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if both that beats were played with 40 hertz, what do you think could happen?
I think it could be very exciting for rave concert to be in 40 hertz. I mean, first of all, 40 hertz increased blood flow in the brain. It increased connectivity between different parts of the brain. It increased focus and concentration. It could do all kinds of good for the people who are experiencing it. Yeah. By the way,
you have to be afraid of people using sound in ways that are not.
There are destructive ways in which sound is being used. For example, there's studies that have shown that heavy metal has very destructive effect on the brain, especially it's induced depression, aggression. I saw a very sad video. For me, it was sad. In the Gulf War, there was a video of U.S. Military in tanks driving going from Kuwait into Baghdad with incredible loud heavy metal inside the tank. That's what they listen to invigorate themselves. And you think about yourself. The impact of the music. I mean, it may save their life, the level of aggression, but it's so damaging in such a small metallic space to be exposed to so much. And no wonder so many veterans have so many issues with depression and trauma, and it's really bad for the brain. And there's a lot of studies showing very positive impact of jazz and classical music, not just on humans, but also on plants. And heavy metals, they've done these studies with plants, playing heavy metal for plants, and the plants start to wilt. They do, and we are a plant too. We're an earth plant. So yeah, it's really well established. There's now so many studies about this.
I saw movies of an elephant actually dancing to music.
Yes, they've done that. In Thailand, there's an elephant orchestra that they play and dance to music. Yeah, it's a phenomenon beyond humanity. Yeah, animals react to that. They synchronize to music. So
they're also developing weapons with sound for crowd control.
Right. So sound can be a weapon. Ruth saying for crowd control, sound can be very damaging. For the ears and for the mind, and the whole thing with Cuba, the American embassy in Cuba, they still don't know all the brain damage that was caused there, and they still don't know exactly what happened. But a lot of people think that it was a Russian-led group of sound, military sound used as a weapon, high frequency, that caused brain damage in the American embassy in Cuba. So sound is very powerful, very, very powerful. Yes.
I have a friend whose son was 35 and he had damage from the vaccine and brain problem. And I was wondering whether that would help him because I thought about music.
Yeah, if you send me email, I'm going to connect you with some of the doctors that I know that work with brain trauma, and I can connect them with your friend. And they highly recommend these doctors using 40 hertz music, about 40 minutes a day. It increases blood flow in the brain. It increases the rate of recovery.
Because I know
whatever the trauma is,
how music just helped me.
Yeah.
I love classical music.
One thing that the doctors told me, if somebody have advanced level of dementia and Alzheimer, that's too late for 40 hertz. It's too late. But early cognitive decline, early Alzheimer, early dementia, they recommend it.
Okay.
And with trauma, regardless what the trauma is, brain trauma, they recommend 40 hertz to help recovery.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ruth, for inviting me. Thank you very much.